This month, I made my way to Munich for the annual Munich Jewellery Week. The event is considered a not-to-be-missed part of the global contemporary jewellery calendar and brought together jewellers from around the world. With over 50 fringe events and the main Handwerk Messe, it was wonderful to also attend a range of lectures and pick up the latest edition of the Current Obsession paper, dedicated to Munich Jewellery Week. For this month's episode, I caught up with Marina Elenskaya and Frank Verkade, two key members of the team behind Current Obsession and the organisation of the Munich Jewellery Week Hub. Marina, who is the co-founder and creative director, and Frank, who looks after talent development at Current Obsession, met me in the hub for a discussion about the magazine, the experience of organising Munich Jewellery Week, and their future plans. I always like to start by asking both of you to tell me a little bit about yourself and what it is you do.
Okay.
Do you want to start here?
Yeah, sure. My name is Marina Elenskaya. I am the creative director of Current Obsession. I have an education in journalism. My first one, television and radio direction, which I got back home when I was pretty young. And then I did a goldsmithing education in Italy at Alchimia Jewelry School. And then I did jewelry design degree at Rietveld Academy in Amsterdam. And it's been a minute, but I managed to combine the both. And it was a big interest for me, the storytelling, the interesting journeys that artists take, the current obsessions of people who are obsessed with a subject or a theme or material, and they really dive into it. And so my thesis when I was graduating was about contemporary jewelry and the makers within it, and it started with interviews, and that's how the whole Current Obsession thing came about. And this is what I've been doing for the past 10 years.
My name is Frank Verkade. I was actually trained as a maker in product design, but relatively soon after I switched more to educational curatorial projects. And I ended up also for that reason with Current Obsession. And also within Current Obsession, I mostly focus on the educational programs, so talent development. And I think it's a good bridge also to what we're doing here.
And what inspired you to start Current Obsession? What is sort of the magazine's development up until today? And then, of course, it's evolved into much more than just a magazine. It's a platform, it's talent development. So how did that journey start and how has it evolved?
Yeah, so back in 2012, when I was graduating from the Rietveld, a friend of mine, Sarah Mesritz, who is also a jewelry designer, she graduated from Maastricht Academy. We were driving to Germany on the way to Oranienbaum, which is ironic because that's where I met Frank too, all those years, and it was a kind of a fateful ride because we were just talking about, we were fresh graduates and struggling with just like what's next, how it is. And she was like, how do we put ourselves out there, the field out there? And we're talking about like, why don't we just make a magazine? I don't know who said that first. Why don't we make a magazine? And it sounded so crazy because neither of us had any experience. And so we were just like, let's try. And we invested our own money into it. So it was just like a very small enterprise. And we managed to find also the graphic designers were also from the Rietveld. And it started really like from the, these people that the sort of network that you have. And it was a struggle in the beginning to kind of get it, because obviously you can't find ads or people don't buy because they didn't know. And what we did, we came to Munich in 2013 and we used the lack of the map that was obviously not available at the time. People were printing huge PDFs and, making these like thick folders for themselves. And we thought like, hey, let's make a map and you put it on the back of the magazine and then people had to buy the magazine to sort of, and it worked. And so both launched the magazine and the Munich Jewellery Week together. We saw a big niche for, writing about jewelry, putting interviews out, giving voices to makers, giving voices to younger generation, graduates, people who, recent graduates. And so those were the things that we were interested in, and they're still going strong. I think also Frank coming on board with the GemZ talent development program, which is now in the second cycle. So all those echoes are still there, but it's just bigger. And like, of course, we've been around already for 10 years, so it just became more defined, I would say. But yeah, interests are still all, like I think Sarah put it really well. She was like, if we make a magazine about jewelry and just put it on the shelf next to like Apartamento or like, I don't know, Vogue, and then people would see that there's this field, and we will just literally be next to them, and we were like, oh, that would be so cool, and here we are. Yes. Right?
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add to that, maybe,
about that trip to Oranienbaum?
Yeah, well, it's quite magical.
It's so interesting because this is where I met him, and we actually had this great time there. Sarah was at the time a jewelry designer, and you were...
I was just starting to work for Ted Naughton, yeah. So, yeah, I started working for jewelers, but I quickly, even though I really liked it, I realized that for me, there was a bigger impact to make by uniting people, and that's what I recognized in Current Obsession. And yeah, I think when they asked me to join the team, I was obviously really, really happy. And to the talent development program specifically, I think all the core values were already actually in Current Obsession. Then to define it into a program, and I think that was sort of the next step that we took. And I think what you see in the program on a smaller scale, I think is also sort of the wish that we have for the field, because I think it's very much about interconnectivity, and it's a rather small community, but a really tight community. Like also if you're here at Munich Jewellery Week, you every now and then hear like a loud scream and people are running towards each other to hug each other. It's really special, but I think because it's so international, you need to find ways to keep the discourse going.
Yeah.
And for me specifically, it was about what we all, I think, know. After you graduate, even if you have success or not, to keep going, to keep momentum is quite difficult. And to have conversations, obviously, also the discourse changes, the vocabulary changes, everything changes basically. So it's just really important to, in addition to behind your bench, make beautiful work, also every now to step out and to connect to each other, I think.
That's right, yeah.
So in the past years, Current Obsession has changed the way contemporary artistic jewelry is photographed, presented, and experienced. This is something you put out there as well.
It's part of our workshop.
Yeah. By making connections with neighboring creative fields. I wanted to ask, Current Obsession places contemporary jewelry in a larger context of today's visual culture. How important is this for the discipline? And what would you encourage designers to do to ensure they communicate their work broader?
It's a great question, because I think this is definitely the key struggle with the field, and something we've been pushing against and still are pushing: interdisciplinarity, collaboration. And I remember when I started talking about it 10 years ago, people were like, it was kind of a dirty word.
True.
Seemed like, no?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that you can't be everything yourself, and if you try, you're going to fail, because if you're a maker, you might not be a writer or a photographer or a web designer, but you need to use people around you. You need to use your classmates, and they should use you and use each other, have a drink together, have a conversation, and ask your writer friend to write your text. Don't write it yourself. Do it with someone who is actually good at it. And it goes beyond that, right? So it's, for individual artists, it's always about just putting themselves out there and like connecting. But also for us, for example, on the cover of this Munich Jewellery Week paper, we have an image by a really famous photographer, Paul Koiker, who's one of the #1 photographers in the Netherlands, fashion photographer. And it was a great opportunity because he's part of a show here at Gallery Zinc. But when people saw a non-jeweler on the cover, people say, well, who is this? We don't know it. But at the same time, people who are part of the publishing world, the graphic design world, photography world, they were thrilled. And that's how we got into a bunch of stores here, or like our distributor was super excited when they knew. We're like, oh my God, we're huge fans. And this is the strategy we've been using, and with those people come their people, and the field grows larger, and we are always trying to do this. And it's like, most of the time it works, and most of the time people actually really stay in the field as well, because it's actually quite a nice discipline, and people understand that it's very profound and there's so much there. And so, I would say just burst that bubble.
Yeah, and I think also like to add, which I think is really wonderful even before I joined, I think it's to sort of look at it as a lens, so as a jewelry lens, instead of it just being,
An object.
An object. Because there's so much, like also, and what you also mentioned with the work of Paul, for example, there's so much like jewelryness in it, it's full of it. And I think it's a quality of our field that we're so tight knit, and it's so sort of, we know what it looks like and who is who. But it's also, I think, good to build bridges and to see, why don't flirt with this field, or to make different connections. Because I think the foundation's already there. I don't think we need to be afraid of like, ooh, what's where's it gonna
being
go?
Insecure, because I think that it has a lot to do with insecurity. Yeah, being comfortable and being gatekeeping a little bit. Like since you achieve something in this field, it's difficult to sort of let go, and perhaps people from another discipline will be like,
Make space.
And so this always brings me to question, like, this insecurity has no connection to reality, because it's one of the oldest disciplines in the world, one of the most substantial and iconic, and people were adorning themselves and adorning each other to recognize each other, to know where they belong since the dawn of time. So what's the, it's just, it's a perfect base to go from. So
Okay, so current obsession works to expand and to empower the meaning of what adornment is.
Right, yeah. So we should talk about that also.
Yeah. So my question is, what is and what is not adornment today?
Which is not.
And what discussions do you feel jewelry designers are or should be engaging in at this moment in time around the debate of adornment?
I'm not sure if it's up to us to say people should or shouldn't do, but I definitely think we would like to motivate people to explore it, because it's specifically also, I think, I always mention like the Dutch word sieraad, it really, in the word itself, sort of it emphasizes the decorative sort of nature of it. Also, it's so much more, like it's social, political, cultural, it's so many layers. And I think just to look at adornment, whether it be on a body or whether it be like an embodiment of its own, there's so much meaning in it. So I think, again, it's not up to us, I think, to say what to or what not to, or what it is or what it isn't. But as long as we sort of keep our explorative mindset on, I think, the possibilities are endless. And also, I think it's maybe interesting also for you to talk about the new magazine. I think it's not just also the physical, it's also the digital that we're also like sort of traveling into now altogether. So there's so much to explore.
Yeah, and just the word itself, it's kind of a new step for us. We're talking about where we are now. We expanded into adornment. Actually, since Frank stepped in, it's became really apparent that there is more than to the words, that just jewelry. And so we're using it as a larger umbrella of signifiers. And it can be makeup, drag art, fashion, artifacts. It could be tattoos. It could be body modifications. It's AR filters. It's Instagram. It's all these things that help you become more, or maybe perhaps hide, or just sort of explore your identity. And it's a huge field. So
one of the things I have been asking a lot to my previous sort of podcast audience, given that we live in a really challenging world with a lot of battles, and we know the consequences of human-centered thinking. There is a question there about what role we as jewelry designers and those who create around the body and human beings, whether we can also engage in discussions, or what is jewelry in a post-anthropocentric, beyond thinking about the human.
Yeah, but I do think, at least also, I think I see it both within the people we talk to for the magazine, but I also see it here at the week. I think people are becoming more aware of the ecology, so the relationship between themselves and their surroundings. And I think materiality is a huge topic now, to sort of know, like, what are precious materials, where are they from, what does it mean to even transport them, exactly,
Yeah.
transform them, make them your own, to extract things. And I think they're sensitive subjects, but therefore, there's no reason not to explore it. I think it's really, really important to become more aware.
Yeah, it's
And,
all about being aware, I think,
And don't be too afraid to have that dialogue, because yes, it might be sensitive and difficult,
but
especially.
it doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. Now even more reason to. So I do think that the people have shifted more from a human-centric perspective to something bigger that they're aware. And you also see like this relationship with like human, non-human, whether it be like the animal, whether it be the alien. There's so many people that are already, I think, on that boat.
We are here at the Munich Jewellery Week Hub. This is the background noise my podcast audience will be listening to in Munich. One of the most important, not the only one, but one of the most important annual events on the contemporary jewellery calendar, where this year Current Obsession has its own base with a schedule of exciting talks. What are the advantages and disadvantages of these types of physical and perhaps disciplinary focused events, and why did you feel it was good and important to have a base for this year's?
Yeah, it's a difficult because we're exploring it as we go. You know, it's been a lot of talks and reflection on it, and we still need to kind of sit down and digest it, and what was the valuable thing about it, and perhaps do we want to continue? But you know, we've been doing discussions like in Munich already for a while. So social clubs we would do every morning already for many years, and it's just a bigger kind of version of it. But what I love is that it's a great opportunity. People from all over the world are here. Post-COVID, it's insane. I haven't seen some people in 5, or longer years, and it is so important to check in with each other and to just have this moment, not superficial, at an opening over a drink, but really like look at each other's work, really sit down and have a moment together, and also a moment with others. I think that's the most important part. And we are so lucky that so many people trust us, and we were able to put this together in 2 months without even having images of the space. And we managed to get RCA, Consvac, Royal College of Art in Antwerp, Rietveld, and Mafat, and all these great schools on board. And we've been working with students for a long time, and so for us it's just so important to support the community and be together. And the best thing about Munich for me when I was younger, when I was graduating, all these people you meet, all these opportunities it creates, all the shows that happen. Pretty much everyone will tell you, I met this person in Munich. I met my gallerist in Munich. I met my buds in Munich. I'm making this collective now because we met all these years ago. We had a beer. So it's huge. It's huge. So here we are, just kind of like, we had this opportunity, so why not? Right?
Yeah, I think it sort of adds on to the point what we were mentioning before about connectivity.
Right.
We always hear it's like, oh, I haven't been able to see this, I want to go there. But because it's like, let's not underestimate, like it's such a huge thing.
Right.
And I think that in combination also with the location where we're at now, it's so central. A lot of people come in that don't know anything about jewelry, which again, in terms of visibility, is interesting. And I hope that the city of Munich and also the people that live here understand the cultural value that these artists bring.
Yeah.
And let's hope that more people, like a partner this year, like Lissy Kiester is our partner in this adventure. And she saw that value, So this is actually going to be turned to a hub of like 7 floors. It's going to be called Lovecraft. Whether it be here next year or somewhere else. I just hope that people understand what these wonderful artists bring.
I want to touch upon the digital, and you said pandemic, and the digital is a topic the magazine doesn't shy away from. You as Current Obsession are not shy about tackling this as a topic, but practically through using digital tools for its audience, and by covering those who use technology within jewelry as well. So following the pandemic, what are, in your opinion, or what has the magazine covered as major changes and challenges or opportunities surrounding our increasingly digital culture that a medium like jewelry, with of course firm roots in handwork and sort of should negate or discuss, or can negate and discuss.
I think it's so interesting when digital technologies are being discussed, seeing as a kind of a counter to like the handcrafts. It isn't absolutely a craft. It takes, if you talk to anyone who makes filters or who creates digital artworks, they will tell you just how much skill and how much time goes into making those images and those incredible surfaces. It's absolutely goldsmithing, and in a way that it's just another level or another tool. And I've never seen the kind of contrariety in it. For me, I really recognize it, and I think it's great that there is, perhaps the pandemic accelerated this, right? And these voices were more like present and heard, and now it became like a kind of full partner in the art world and in a discourse. But I don't think we've ever we really embraced it really quickly. And one of the liaisons that we've had already 5-6 years ago was Ines Alpha, who I discovered by chance. She was part of some show at the Sandberg Institute, and it was literally like a 2-second chopped videos of digital art. Something about her piece, I was like, what is this? So I had to Google every single were really bad at crediting everyone. I had to Google every single person, and finally I saw her, and what she was doing, she was faking what now is a filter. She would ask her friends to send a video of themselves, sort of like in slow motion, and on that video she would kind of fake this presence of this digital, what she calls makeup, but it's actually adornment, right, the way I see it. So it's like either perhaps an extension of a body or some kind of alien tissue or scales or bubbles or whatever. And she was the person who literally pushed Instagram, she and people like her, to develop this technology, which now is completely massive. And I think it's so interesting that people like her were like, I need to find a way to make this real, and just a few years later it happened. So that's amazing, and I think it's just another way of adorning. And how much time do we spend on screens? How much time do we spend on Zooms and calling each other? And why not? Yeah, like why not be aware of something that makes you feel maybe a little more dramatic or fabulous.
Completely agree. And also I think, again, in line with what we're doing at Current Obsession, I think to think about the last couple of years, how we sort of altogether migrated to this digital realm, and that was our life. And of course it's going to have its reflections on what we do now. And I think what I personally really like about the digital, that I think a lot of artists that I see do well there still have a freedom in the digital realm. I'm not saying it's, because we often talk about real or unreal or fake, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But I do think sort of the expressiveness of like identity over there feels to me more free.
Yeah, and I think I did an interview with Ines Alpha some years ago, and she put it really well, that she actually was a really shy person and really insecure, and she was like, I just wanted to, it's not about beautification, but it's just about becoming who you are, and like just feeling a little bit more confident, and whatever that is, right? It could be like a really simple basic filter, but or something really insane, but it's just about embracing that identity, and that's what jewelry has always been doing, right? So yeah, it's just kind of like a next level up. So this is here we are now, and that's what we're doing. So yeah.
And again, I don't think we should be afraid of it. It's another thing to embrace. Like
yeah.
I also think it's a hype. I think it's unfair that it's seen as a hype. I think it really sort of devalues the hard work and labor, and again, the craft that's in there, people that make this kind of work.
Yeah, embrace, and by embracing also challenge its disadvantages. Because there is, of course, we know with digital also an unpoliced, because it's all
Completely.
new, it
Let's be
often
real,
is
of course.
unpoliced, and
Yeah.
if we're looking at artificial intelligence, there are things happening
yeah.
there
Agree.
that are, we need to be there. We need to be in the space so that
Yeah.
we can be part of the discussion and
and
start
disrupt
helping.
this
Disrupt,
shit.
exactly. I think this is incredibly important to both celebrate the positives and the opportunities it provides, but at the same time engage in the
Critique
discussion
it,
as to
absolutely.
what it also means for the negative
Yeah,
side.
as with every technology. Exactly, yeah.
Awareness.
Of course, we're here. I know you have been very busy. Has there been a highlight? It doesn't have to be a piece of work or just because I like it to ask this kind of question. It could just be a conversation.
I really enjoyed CSM's show. I actually, to be honest, I haven't seen that much. I'm just gonna be realistic. We had to spend a lot of time
of course.
here. But I love. I don't know if I can, if I say the name correctly. Jo Harrison Hall, right?
Yeah.
Her work is amazing, and it's a pandemic, pandemic work, and it's about this like rinse and repeat. It's about cleanliness and obsession with sort of like the soap, and I saw it for the first time in real, and it's absolutely incredible. It was really, really, really good to meet the work and also meet her and just see that they always put up a really good show. So I enjoyed that.
I think she even also
one.
co-curated it, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's
So,
really official,
what about you?
I've seen probably even less, so I'm not going to mention the show. I think for me, it is, I think, witnessing people reuniting. It sounds really corny, but I mean, it's been for so many people so long.
Right,
And we had the party yesterday, and just to, it's just the cutest, because it's not every community.
Yeah.
Not everybody's embraced by a hug and a loud scream, and it's, I think, something really special. Like, everybody is all over the world, but then they unite in this wonderful and strange city. And I think, because I mean, it's been away for a few years. You never know how it's going to recover. So that's what I'm, I think, most happy with.
Yeah, and talking about postponed shows, we just were at the Therese Hilbert's solo at the Pinakothek der Moderne. They had a press preview, and her show also took really long to develop, and it's a life's work. There's pieces from when she just was a student, really young, and you see somebody's complete over, and it was really, really incredible.
It's so impressive.
Yeah, and they had a book, and I was just like really touched by seeing someone putting up something so personal, and every single piece, and the way she is, the way she just looks and talks about the work. I was really, 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 that's definitely a huge highlight. So
the work just does the talking. Like, it's so well made. It's so to its essence, and also, even though she was being interviewed, she just didn't use too many words. Everything to the core. Like, it's really special.
Really nice one as well.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. Last question, because I don't want to take too much of your time.
No,
but what's in store for you both coming up and current obsession? Anything we should be looking forward to?
Yes.
Anything you want to talk to any jewelers about for applying to?
This is a busy year for us. We are releasing the magazine, the 8th issue, which is an interesting premise where we are doing it chapter by chapter throughout the year. So we released it already actually in February, but it was an empty magazine. So just as a concept, and we are going to release it every 3 months, a new chapter. So around 3-4 months, so it's like about 5 chapters. And it's about getting together. So the real events, IRL events, discussions, workshops, performances are documented and become content. And at the end of the year, we will release the full magazine, the second launch. And the theme is the placeholder. And so it's about this empty vessel that is being filled. And I see jewelry being that vessel for power, vessel for information, emotion, heritage, many things. So the placeholder is like my main kind of baby, and it's quite, it's going to be quite cool, I think.
Precious.
So that's one thing, and then in November we will do again the Obsessed Jewellery Festival in its 4th edition. We were hit by the pandemic, so last one was digital mostly, but we had some IRL events, but it was a bit like, so we're coming back, and for Obsessed there will be some really interesting events. We had an open call, and it still is ongoing, so definitely people are welcome to apply, and it's a festival that takes place throughout the Netherlands and Antwerp, and well, I say Belgium, but yeah, it's mostly Antwerp. And so, yeah, that's November, and the highlight of Obsessed Jewellery Festival.
Well, I'm not sure what's highlight, but it's my baby. Gem Z, so we're concluding the second cycle of the Gem Z program with an exhibition. We're returning to the new institute in Rotterdam.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned before, the interdisciplinary character of what we do. For the ones that don't know, the new institute is both a research organ but also a museum for design, architecture and digital culture. And we presented the first cycle there, and just to present it against that backdrop of that institution was really interesting for us. And they also liked it, so we've been asked to make it into a 3-month exhibition. So the 11 participants of the program are going to be exhibiting there.
With new work, all brand new work
yeah,
that is developed as part of this program. So Frank is curating also the curatorial, but also the colloquial. Sort of, we select a really interesting interdisciplinary group of people to instruct them, to help them kind of develop work, and we will show it in November. Yeah.
So anybody that's around.
I guess that's it. No, for this year, right?
Yeah.
Or am I forgetting
something?
No,
I think that's
I guess you should. Everyone listening should follow you guys.
Yeah. We have a newsletter, so that's we always communicate pretty much, and on Instagram as well.
Yeah,
so, for sure.
Watch this space.
That's right.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time.
Yes, of course.
To speak to me and for all the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next month, I will be joined by another guest, so watch this space to find out who it is. But for now, this was Sofie Boons for the BHA podcast episode titled Current Obsession at Munich Jewellery Week 2023, recorded live from the Munich Jewellery Week Hub with Marina Elenskaya and Frank Verkaad. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.